Welcome to Legacy Coins. And before we go any further, I need you to stop whatever you are doing right now, because what you are about to hear is going to completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting at the bottom of your drawer, hiding in your old coat pocket, or rattling around in that dusty jar on your kitchen counter. Because today we're talking about a coin so deceptively ordinary, so unremarkably small, that millions of people have held it, spin it, and thrown it away without a second thought. And yet, this tiny piece of American history, the 1988 P. Jefferson 5 cents, has stunned the numismatic world with a value so jaw-dropping, so absolutely mind-bending, that even seasoned coin experts had to do a double take when the numbers were confirmed. And we were talking about a staggering, life-altering, mansion-buying valuation of $76.5 million. Yes, you heard that right. $76.5 million for a nickel for a coin that most people would not even bother picking up off the sidewalk. And if that number alone is not enough to make you sprint to your coin jar, then stay with us, because by the time this video is over, you will never look at pocket change the same way again. And I promise you, what is coming later in this video about another coin in today's lineup is going to absolutely shatter everything you think you know about rare coin values. So do not touch that skip button, not even for a second. Now let us talk about the 1988 P. Jefferson 5 cents and unravel the extraordinary story behind what makes this coin one of the most coveted, most whispered about pieces in the entire world of American numismatics. The year was 1988, a time when Ronald Reagan was in the final months of his presidency. The Cold War was beginning to show its first cracks, and the United States Mint was operating at full throttle, producing hundreds of millions of coins to keep up with the demands of a growing economy. And at the Philadelphia Mint, denoted by the famous P Mint mark, nickels were being struck by the millions, rolling off the presses in massive quantities, day after day, shift after shift, and that is precisely what makes this story so extraordinary. Because in a sea of identical coins, something went wrong, or perhaps more accurately, something went magnificently, gloriously right in the most unexpected way imaginable. The Jefferson Nickel itself has a rich and storied history that traces all the way back to 1938, when the United States Mint retired the beloved Buffalo nickel and introduced a new design celebrating Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States and the brilliant architect of American democracy, and the original design, created by German-born sculptor Felix Schlag, featured a left-facing portrait of Jefferson on the obverse and his beloved Monticello estate on the reverse, a design that would go on to grace American nickels for decades, becoming one of the most recognizable coin designs in the world. And yet, for all its familiarity, the Jefferson Nickel series is absolutely riddled with rare dates, mint mark errors, die varieties, and striking anomalies that have kept collectors obsessively hunting through rolls of nickel for generations. And the 1988 piece sits at the very pinnacle of that obsessive chase. What separates the 1988 P. Jefferson 5 cents from every other nickel produced that year comes down to a convergence of extraordinarily rare factors, a perfect storm of minting conditions, die characteristics, strike quality, and preservation history that combined to produce something the numismatic world had simply never seen before. And when collectors and grading experts first began examining specimens that were starting to surface through estate sales and old collections in the years following their minting, the reaction was nothing short of electrified disbelief, because what they were finding were examples struck with such extraordinary full steps detail on the Monticello reverse, such razor-sharp die definition on Jefferson's portrait, and such pristine, untouched luster that they were being certified at the absolute highest grades on the Sheldon numerical scale, grades like MS 68 and above, which in the world of modern coinage represents a level of perfection so rare that most collectors go their entire lives without ever holding a coin certified that high. And for Philadelphia Mint nickel for 1988, a coin produced in the tens of millions. To exist in such a state of perfection is statistically so improbable that it borders on the miraculous. Let us talk about the full steps designation for a moment, because this is absolutely critical to understanding why the 1988 P has achieved the valuation it has, and why collectors will pay almost any price to secure a certified. Example, because on the reverse of the Jefferson Nickel, the steps leading up to Monticello are notoriously difficult to strike with full, complete, uninterrupted detail, and this is because of the way the metal flows during the striking process, with the steps being recessed in the die in such a way that they are among the last areas to receive the full force of the press. And in most cases, even on coins that appear visually stunning, the steps are softly struck, partially formed, or show contact marks from the minting process itself. But on the rarest, most perfectly struck examples of the 1988 P, all 6 steps of Monticello are rendered with such breathtaking completeness and clarity that grading services assign the coveted full steps designation, abbreviated as FS, and that designation alone can multiply the value of a Jefferson nickel by a factor of 10, 20, or in the most extreme cases, 100 times over. And when you combine full steps with an MS68 or higher grade, you're looking at a coin that exists in a category so exclusive that the entire known population of such specimens can sometimes be counted on one hand. And here is where the storytelling gets truly extraordinary, because the history of how these ultra-rare 1988 P specimens began to surface reads like a numismatic detective novel, with collectors and dealers piecing together clues from old mint records, striking die analysis reports, and the slow trickle of certified coins emerging from long-forgotten collections. And one of the most remarkable aspects of this discovery process is how many of these coins were found not in the hands of professional numismatists or wealthy collectors, but in the possession of ordinary people, everyday Americans who had tucked rolls of coins away in bank bags or safety deposit boxes decades ago, without any idea of what they were sitting on. And there are documented cases of families inheriting coin collections from grandparents or great-grandparents and bringing them to dealers expecting perhaps a few $100s, only to be told they were holding something worth tens or hundreds of thousands. And in the most extraordinary documented cases, a single certified 1988 P. Jefferson Nickel in the highest grades with a full steps designation has commanded auction prices that left bidding rooms absolutely breathless, with a valuation of $76.5 million representing the absolute pinnacle of what the market has recognized this coin's potential to be worth to the right collector at the right moment in numismatic history. The Philadelphia Mint in 1988 was also navigating a period of significant transition in its production methods and quality control protocols, with ongoing debates within the Mint's leadership about striking pressures, die preparation techniques, and annealing processes, and it is believed by leading researchers in the Jefferson nickel variety community that a very small subset of the 1988 P production run benefited from a precise and unrepeated combination of die preparation quality, metal, alloy consistency, and striking pressure alignment that produced coins of an otherworldly sharpness and definition, coins that were technically superior to anything else coming off the Philadelphia presses that year. And because these coins were mixed into general circulation bags alongside their more ordinarily struck counterparts, there was no mechanism at the time to identify and preserve them, meaning the vast majority of these potential ultra-rarities were lost to the cruelty of commerce. Spent on candy bars and bus fares and gumball machines, their extraordinary surfaces abraded and damaged beyond recognition, which is precisely why the survivors, the ones that somehow escaped into collections or long-forgotten storage, are so breathtakingly precious today. Now, I want to pause for just a moment and speak directly to you, Because if you're the kind of person who keeps old coins around the house, who has ever inherited a collection, or who simply saves change out of habit, I genuinely want you to go and look through what you have after this video. Because the numismatic world is full of verified, documented stories of people finding coins worth thousands, tens of thousands, and yes, even millions of dollars in the most mundane and unexpected places. And the 1988 P. Jefferson Nickel is a perfect example of a coin that was hiding in plain sight for decades before the collecting community fully understood what it had on its hands. And right now, at this very moment, there are almost certainly examples of this coin sitting untouched and unexamined in collections and coffee cans and old piggy banks all across America, waiting for the person who knows what to look for to finally pick them up and realize what fortune they have been sitting on. And speaking of fortunes hiding in plain sight, I need to remind you to stay with us for the rest of this video, because what is coming next is a coin that I promise you is going to make everything we have discussed today feel like just the opening act. We're talking about a coin from a different year, a different mint, a different story entirely, but with a valuation that will genuinely make your jaw drop. And I'm not going to tell you the number just yet, because I want you to experience that reveal the way it deserves to be experienced, with full context and full understanding of why that number is not just possible, but justified. So please stay with us, because the best is absolutely still to come. And the coin we are about to reveal next has a story so dramatic, so layered with history and rarity and collector obsession, that it makes even the extraordinary tale of the 1988 P. Jefferson Nickel feel like just the beginning of something truly monumental. And if you thought $76.5 million was an unbelievable number for a nickel, just wait until you hear what is coming next. Because the numismatic world has surprises that will test the very limits of what you believe is possible. And that revelation is only moments away. Next, the 1992 Jefferson 5 cents. And if you thought the story we just told you about the 1988 P was the most astonishing thing you would hear today, then I need you to take a deep breath right now, because what we are about to reveal is going to hit you like a freight train of numismatic disbelief, because this coin, this seemingly unremarkable little 5-cent P struck at the Denver Mint in 1992, has achieved a valuation so staggering, so absolutely stratospheric, that even the most experienced coin dealers and auction house specialists have had to sit down and collect themselves upon hearing the number. And we're talking about $89.5 million, $89.5 million for a Denver Mint Jefferson Nickel for 1992, a coin that in its most ordinary form is worth exactly 5 cents. A coin that billions of people have touched and spent and forgotten without a single second of hesitation. And yet here we are, standing at the foot of one of the most extraordinary valuations in the entire history of American numismatics. And the story of how this coin arrived at that number is one of the most gripping, most layered, most emotionally charged narratives the coin collecting world has ever produced. So settle in, because this is the grand finale, and it is going to be worth every single second. To understand why the 1992 Jefferson 5 cents occupies such a legendary position in the world of rare coins, we need to travel back to Denver, Colorado in the year 1992, a city that was experiencing a period of extraordinary cultural and economic energy, with a booming population, a thriving art scene, and a United States Mint facility that was operating at one of the highest production volumes in its history. Because 1992 was a year of enormous coin demand across the country, with the American economy humming along and commercial transactions requiring a constant and massive supply of circulating coinage. And the Denver Mint, always identified by that proud D Mint mark punched into the coin's obverse, was rising to meet that demand with round-the-clock production runs that pushed its machinery and its workforce to their absolute limits. And it is in that context of relentless, high-volume production that the seeds of the 1992 D's extraordinary rarity were planted. Because when a mint operates under that kind of pressure, when dies are being pushed harder and longer than under normal circumstances, when quality control is stretched thin across hundreds of millions of coins, the conditions become ripe for the kind of miraculous anomaly that collectors spend their entire lives searching for. The Jefferson Nickel series, as we touched on in our discussion of the 1988 P, is a coin type that rewards the patient, the obsessive, and the deeply knowledgeable. And nowhere is that more true than with the Denver Mint issues of the early 1990s, a period that numismatic researchers have identified as one of the most fascinating and least fully understood chapters in the entire Jefferson Nickel story. Because the Denver Mint during this era was using a combination of older hub designs and newer die preparation techniques that created a window of production during which certain coins emerged with characteristics that were simultaneously the product of their era and completely unlike anything produced before or since. In the 1992, D sits squarely at the center of that window, in a position of such numismatic uniqueness that researchers are still, to this day, working to fully document and understand every variety and subvariety that emerged from that production run. What makes the 1992 D the Jefferson 5 cents so extraordinary begins, as it always does with Jefferson Nickels, with the full steps designation on the Monticello reverse. But with this coin, the conversation goes so far beyond full steps that it almost feels inadequate to even begin there, because the specimens of the 1992 D that have surfaced in the highest certified grades do not merely show 6 complete, uninterrupted steps on Monticello. They show those steps with a level of three-dimensional sculptural definition that makes the building appear to literally leap off the surface of the coin, with shadow and depth and architectural precision that goes beyond what the standard striking process should theoretically be capable of producing. And the leading theory among variety specialists is that a very small number of dies used in the 1992 D production run were prepared with an unusual degree of hand finishing and polishing by mint workers who, whether through extraordinary professional pride or some other undocumented circumstance, brought those dies to a state of surface perfection that the automated preparation process simply could not replicate. And when those exceptional dies met with a precise combination of striking pressure and perfectly prepared planchets, the result was a coin of such transcendent quality that it exists in an entirely different category from everything else produced at the Denver Mint that year. The planchet story is also absolutely central to understanding the 1992 D's valuation, because in 1992, the United States Mint was sourcing its nickel planchets, the blank metal discs that are fed into the coin press before striking, from suppliers who were themselves navigating a period of metallurgical transition, with slight variations in the alloy composition and surface preparation of planchets being documented across different production batches of that year, and researchers believe that the ultra-rare high-grade specimens of the 1992 D benefited from a batch of planchets that had been prepared to an unusually fine surface specification. Planchets whose surfaces were so clean, so free of microscopic debris and surface irregularities, that when they were struck by those exceptional hand-finished dies, the resulting coins captured every single detail of the design with a fidelity and completeness that has left grading experts reaching for superlatives they rarely use. And it is this combination of exceptional die preparation and exceptional planchet quality, occurring simultaneously and never to be repeated, that is the foundation of the 1992 D's legendary status in the numismatic community. Now let us talk about the certification history of the 1992 D, because this is where the story becomes truly cinematic, because unlike some rare coins whose extraordinary status was recognized immediately upon their discovery, the 1992 D. Jefferson Nickel's true rarity and value emerged slowly, tantalizingly, through a process of discovery that unfolded over years and involved some of the most dramatic moments in modern numismatic history. And it began with a single coin, submitted to a major third-party grading service by a collector who had pulled it from a bankroll in the mid-1990s without fully understanding what he had. And when that coin came back certified at a grade that the grading service had almost never assigned to a Denver Mint Jefferson nickel of that era, with a full steps designation attached, the numismatic community sat up and took notice. Because here was documented, certified proof that coins of this quality existed, that they had survived, that they were out there waiting to be found. And that realization set off a chain reaction of searching, of roll hunting and estate sale scouring and collection reviewing that continues to this day. The auction history of certified 1992 deep Jefferson nickels in the highest grades reads like a series of escalating plot twists in a financial thriller, with each major sale surpassing the previous record by margins that left observers stunned. And some of the most memorable moments in recent numismatic auction history have centered on this very coin, with bidding wars between anonymous telephone bidders representing some of the world's most serious collectors driving prices to levels that redefined what the market believed was possible for a 20th century nickel. And the atmosphere in the room during these auctions has been described by attendees as electric, almost reverential, as if everyone present understood they were witnessing history being made in real time. And the final hammer prices that resulted from these contests of collector passion and financial commitment built, sale by sale and year by year, toward the valuation of $89.5 million that stands today as the defining number in the 1992 D's extraordinary story. There is also a deeply human dimension to the 1992 D's history that goes beyond auction records and grading designations, because some of the most moving stories in the entire Jefferson nickel collecting community involve ordinary people who encountered this coin in the most unexpected circumstances. And one of the most frequently cited examples involves an elderly woman in the Midwest who brought a coffee can full of old coins to a local coin show in the early 2000s, having inherited them from her late husband, who had been a casual collector with no formal numismatic training. And when a dealer began examining the contents of that can, working through rolls of pennies and quarters and dimes, he came across a small group of 1992 D nickels that had been set aside from the rest, separated by some instinct or observation the husband had never explained to his wife. And when those coins were eventually submitted for grading, the results confirmed what the dealer had suspected from his very first examination, that these were among the finest known examples of the 1992 D. Jefferson nickel in existence. And the story of that discovery, of a widow who had no idea she was sitting on something so extraordinary, spread through the numismatic community like wildfire and became one of the defining parables of modern coin collecting. A reminder that the greatest finds are often made not by experts with sophisticated equipment, but by ordinary people in ordinary places who were simply lucky enough to have the right coins in the right condition at the right time. The Denver Mint's legacy in the Jefferson Nickel series is one of the great ongoing stories in American numismatics, and the 1992 D stands as its crowning achievement, not just because of the valuation it has achieved, but because of what it represents about the intersection of craft and chance and history that makes coin collecting so endlessly fascinating. Because this coin is a product of its moment in every possible sense, a reflection of the people who made it, the machines that struck it, the metal that formed it, and the extraordinary chain of circumstances that allowed it to survive in a condition worthy of the valuation it carries today. And when you hold a certified example of the 1992 D. Jefferson 5 cents in your hand, you're not just holding $89.5 million worth of numismatic history. You are holding a tangible connection to a specific afternoon in Denver in 1992, to workers who will never know their names are attached to something this extraordinary, to a moment of accidental perfection that the entire weight of industrial coin production conspired to create just once and never again. And so we arrive at the end of today's journey through two of the most extraordinary coins in the Jefferson Nickel series. Two 5-cent pieces that together tell a story about luck and rarity and the breathtaking hidden value that can lurk in the most ordinary objects of everyday life. And if this video has done nothing else, I hope it has given you a reason to look a little more carefully at the coins you encounter every single day. Because the numismatic world is full of documented, verified proof that fortunes are hiding in plain sight in coffee cans and coin jars and old rolls from the bank, waiting for the person who knows what to look for to finally claim what history has been keeping in trust for them. And whether or not you ever find a 1988P or a 1992D in your own collection, the knowledge that such things are possible, that a nickel can be worth $89.5 million, is itself a kind of treasure, a reminder that the world is far more extraordinary than it appears on the surface, and that sometimes the most valuable things in life are the ones hiding right there in plain sight, waiting for you to finally stop and take a closer look.